Hello, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Lena. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a rising sophomore at St. Lawrence University in Canton, New York. I plan on being an English literature and Francophone studies double major, and I will also be a CA, which is what we call RAs, at St. Lawrence in the fall for first years. I hope if we go back in the fall. Today I'll be giving you tips on how to choose your college classes. I know that if you are a St. Lawrence student right now, the first years will be registering for classes in a couple weeks, so I hope you find this video helpful. But even if you aren't a St. Lawrence student, I hope this video is helpful to you. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments to put down below. I will be more than happy to answer them. Also, if you have any other video recommendations for college-related content, St. Lawrence related or not, please let me know. So as I mentioned, I'm a rising sophomore, which means I've already completed one full year at St. Lawrence University. So my first semester in college, I took my FYP, which was African Myth and Reality, Math 136, which is Calculus 2, Biology 101, and French 103, which is Intermediate French. In this spring semester, I took FYS, which is the second required freshman class. Mine was Growing Up Victorian. Then I took English 237, which is Survey of American Literature Part 1. Then I took French 104, which was the second part of Intermediate French. And then I took Government 103, which is Introduction to American Politics. If you are taking any of those classes or plan to take any of those classes, leave a comment down below and I can share more information about them. The tips I'm about to share, I used some of them in my first and second semesters, but some of them I actually didn't and wish I had. So without further ado, let's get started with the tips. The first tip I have is to research on your own. No doubt you've been assigned an advisor, but I would definitely say peruse the college course website on your own, look at the different courses, the professors, all of that stuff before you meet with your advisor, just so you have an idea of what kind of classes you want to be taking. If you have AP or IB credit, pay attention to that, or dual enrollment credit, so that way you're not retaking classes that you don't need to be taking. And once you have a good idea of that, you'll be able to start generating a list of classes that you might want to take in the fall. My second tip is to figure out the degree requirements on your own before you meet with your advisor. Your advisor might not know everything about every single degree requirement or track requirement. So if you are pre-med, pre-law, pre-dental, anything like that, I'm sure your college has a section on their website where you can go online and take a look at what classes are required. Also, if you are planning on being a biology major or something like that, you can also go online and figure that out. In my first semester, I was outside of office hours waiting to talk to a professor, and this girl next to me said she had no idea she had to take chemistry and biology for pre-med, and it screwed up her whole registration thing. So if you can avoid that beforehand, it's a good thing to know. And it's also helpful when you're asking your advisor questions and you want to know specifically, like, do I need to take it in my first semester? And you can tell your advisor that you know you need these courses, and that's that. My third tip is eventually you should be able to speak with your advisor, whether it's on the phone, through Zoom or video conference, anything like that. Maybe it's in person, maybe you're lucky enough for that. But definitely talk to them, take them up on their offer, ask them all the questions you want to. Obviously, they might not know everything, and so they may direct you to someone else who knows more about something, but make sure you ask questions and be open and upfront about classes you're interested in taking, because sometimes they have ideas about maybe freshmen shouldn't be taking that class, or that class fills up really quickly. And the second part of this third tip is if you can speak with upperclassmen as well, because they also have knowledge of different courses. I didn't really know any upperclassmen, so I couldn't really speak to anyone. But if you have an older brother or a friend that went to your high school, feel free to reach out to them. They're more than likely willing to help, and they are a great resource as well. My fourth tip is to make a priority list of your classes. St. Lawrence does registration over a period of 3 different days typically, and so you'll need to prioritize which classes you think are important to get into first. At St. Lawrence, as a first year, you're only allowed to take 4 classes, so figure out which ones you want to take first. Obviously, as a freshman, you've already been put into your FYP, so you'll have 3 other classes to register for, but figure out what classes matter more to you, which ones you actually want to make sure you get into, which ones fill up fast. For example, like economics and statistics or psychology tend to fill up really fast, and other classes like some early English classes don't fill up quite so fast, or upper level language classes don't fill up quite so fast. So it's just something to keep in mind. And of course, that's a great question to ask your advisor when you're meeting with them. My 5th tip is the tip that I did not follow. I was actually given this tip before I registered, but I decided to ignore it. And I wish I had not. And this tip is to register for one course that you know you will love or that interests you. I got so caught up in my first semester with meeting all these prerequisites and general education requirements that none of my classes that I took really spoke to me. Having one class that interests you is a great thing because it gives you one class to look forward to. It helps you in this huge transition that you're undertaking. So you know that at the very least, you'll be in that one class that you loved. So for me, I wish I had taken an English class in the fall, but I did not. But for some people, it's taking a dance class or a public speaking class or a math class or a biology class or a history class, anything like that. So just try to figure out if there's one class that you can take. For me, I felt like my FYP was already chosen for me and I only had 3 other classes. So I felt like I could shove English to the back burner because I didn't need to explore it in my first semester. But it turns out English would have provided a great comfort for me in the first semester. And I really wish I had taken an English class. My 6th tip is to know yourself and figure out a weekly schedule based on yourself. For me, I like getting up early in the morning. I like 8 a.m. classes, a little controversial, I know, but I really enjoy them. I like getting all my classes out of the way. My 2nd semester, I actually had a class that ended at 4 o'clock and that was brutal. I hate having afternoon classes. I'm just so over being in class by that point. So my preferred schedule is to finish all my classes before lunch, which I only succeeded in doing that my first semester. It did not work out that way last semester. So just think about what you are like as a person. Don't necessarily do with what you think the typical college student is like. Go with what you feel like you are as a person. Go with your gut. Figure out, do you want to wake up early? Do you want to have mid-morning classes, afternoon classes, mid-afternoon classes, maybe a couple night classes? Figure out what works for you. But just make sure that you're trying to make a schedule to the best of your ability. I know it probably won't be perfect. That revolves around your lifestyle, so you're not torturing yourself the entire semester. My 7th and final tip is to make sure you know when registration is and register on time. I mentioned previously in this video that St. Lawrence does it over the span of 3 days. The first year summer registration might open at noon, correct me if I'm wrong, noon Eastern time. But I know that during the school year, I think it's at 7 a.m. actually. So make sure you are there on your school's registration site to make sure you're there on time and ready to register. Have your priority list out, so if you can't get into your first choice, then you have your 2nd, 3rd, 4th choices there so you can pick them and be ready to register. The worst thing is to oversleep or to not register on the right day, and then you get locked out of classes because you weren't there at the right time, and then you have to end up taking all these random classes that you have zero interest in and are not really helpful for your major or helpful in general. And if this does happen to you, it's fine. Talk with your advisor, figure out if you can get on a waiting list or anything like that, but try your very best to avoid it. Those are my 7 tips for how to choose college classes. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. I hope to be making a dorm video in about 2 weeks. I absolutely love to answer questions, so please feel free to put them down in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all next week.